Welcome back to NASCAR Lap by Lap with me, Garon Bach. We're going to break down last weekend's action at Darlington, take a look ahead at the weekend upcoming at Bristol, and then joining us later will be Jay Husmann from the podcast of Fan4Racing, as he is a radio co-host for them. I am very I'm very impressed with how the weekend was overall at Darlington. I think obviously we had a few Hendrick drivers, Chase Elliott, one of them, who talked about throwback weekend being something that's kind of running its course. But then you can look at the Xfinity series, and I mean, every single year they're bringing a really nice car. I mean, I'm pretty sure one of them put a Lumina logo on the front of it, which hasn't been ran in NASCAR in a while. So, I mean, there's some liberties taken, but overall, the weekend from a fan perspective was great. Racing wise, not so much. William Byron dominated last weekend. If you guys listened to the show, that's what I thought would happen. I thought the 24 would come in there, and I thought that he would do very well during the race. I thought that he would put on a show, and that's exactly what he did. I mean, if we look at the results here, William Byron finished second, but he led 243 laps, and over 200 of those laps were consecutively led. That's something that's kind of unheard of, and especially in this day and age, because you've got your stage breaks, you've got your green flag pit stops. But I mean, the last time this happened was in September of 2000 when a driver went that long, and that was the last time a driver led a full race was in September of 2000, and that was Jeff Burton. But William Byron, he made it look like that's what he was going to do over the weekend. But then came Denny Hamlin, who did very well. There's a reason why he's here as the winner of the race. He took advantage of the tires. Him and Blaney, they waited, and they kept waiting, and just so be it, they were able to dominate the end of the race. And then the caution came out from the Larson and Wallace incident, which, if you go back to the R&D, you look at what NASCAR had said, there was no foul play involved there. So no need to worry about that. There wasn't any purposeful incident to try to keep Reddick up front by 23:11. But the weekend overall as a whole for Hendrick Motorsports went well. But then we look at Kyle Larson, who, when I wrote about in my piece Sunday night, could you now argue that William Byron is Hendrick Motorsports' top driver? And the weekend results, I mean, obviously Byron finished second, led over 200 laps. But no, I still believe Larson is still Hendrick's top driver. And then we still have Christopher Bell going on his legacy run for this season. He finished third, and then Tyler Reddick finishing fourth, and then Ryan Blaney finishing fifth. Ryan Blaney was doing something that no one else seemed to be doing. So just like Homestead, Miami a couple weeks ago, the track at Darlington is designed to where it's different degrees of banking on the course or on the circuit. And Blaney seems to be, I mean, just the 12 team overall seems to have found out a way on how to run the bottom of the track and have speed passing people. You see the entire race. I mean, there's the Darlington stripe, a very notorious saying, something drivers know will happen when they go to this track. And Ryan Blaney just managed to run the bottom in his throwback to his dad's paint scheme, which was very nice. But overall speaking, Blaney, I believe that he would have won this race if it stayed green. But overall, weekend was nice. NASCAR does have an aero issue. This car, the Gen 7 car, has its problems. William Byron was the dominant car, and yet as soon as he got in dirty air during the final restarts and whenever they had the green flag pit stops, it just seemed that the 24 could not move. But moving on now to Bristol, I'm going to bring on Jay Husmann from the Fan4Racing radio podcast. So let me get him on the screen here. Jay, welcome on. Very excited to have you. So I wanted to ask you about your overall your overall thoughts from the Darlington weekend?
Yeah, I thought the Darlington was good. You hit key point. Denny didn't necessarily have the best car, but was in position. Took advantage of what happened in the not by conspiracy a little bit. I know there's a lot of different fans that want to get into that. It's ridiculous in my opinion, but we've also, you go back to, unfortunately, the Michael Waltrip days. We know it can and has happened. So NASCAR looked into it and they said, no, that was a totally separate incident. There was no animosity either, because I know that felt that was a carryover for history. So I'm glad to see they didn't get involved in that. I'm one of those NASCAR's involved in things that I understand they got to be at times. So it was a good race. Had the earlier car not come out stopped, we'd be talking about a race altogether. William, I think, would have been the two battling it out. For sure, William Byron. I don't know about Ryan Blaney. He kind of got caught up there too, but I think he had a strong enough car. I don't think Denny Hamlin did. Had that cycled out that way. The last restart, the green-white checkered, that some fans called in and were asking on Sirius XM radio throughout the day, and changed the restart now checkered. And I'm like, why? This is what I was one of them that fans asked for, and now we're getting, but feels like it's not my favorite driver getting the advantage out of it.
Yeah, so obviously Denny Hamlin, he's not a fan favorite, even though I really think once fans would listen to what he has to say for the sport, people would understand why his being in the sport is very important. But something I wanted to ask you about was, what do you think, like I mentioned with Ryan Blaney, what do you think the 12 team has figured out with the Gen 7 car that it seems no one else can, to be able to run the bottom at the type of track that Darlington is?
Just in general, I know and point statistics for, if you look at how they run through up front, they are having a strong season, just not getting the finishes, and that goes for his teammate Joey Logano as well, Ryan Preece and Chris Buescher. Penske, specific, the number 12, as you mentioned, does appear to. I know Kevin Harvick was talking about it, that he did it back in his, just because he didn't like run the speed was. And I think about it, and I'm trying to think what other track they talk of. If everybody's running up against the wall in the track out low, there's so I think you do set your car up a bit different there because it is newer surface running on it. And so decided, we're going to run this. If you run where everybody else is, you're in a jam. If you yourself do whatever, what works down there. Honestly, if I said I wouldn't, because some on my front door would be, hey,
Yeah, so obviously it seems to be Ryan Blaney. I thought at the end of the race he would come in and do well, but obviously Hamlin won. Do you think that JGR has solidified themselves as the top team in the sport so far this season?
They're in a process. I think they're about did our pre weeks high for 410
Well, it seems that we had lost. Okay, it looks like he's coming back. Let me see if I can get it back on here. Sorry about that. You all good now?
Job. Yep. Okay. Sorry.
Yeah, you're all good.
but so it's that change. Like I said, Hendrick Motorsports is kind of split up. Some of that is their own rough races, but Bell, what'd you say? And it really is forced. Then we might see 3. I really thought not ever one-on-one. I thought you were talking about me there when you Hamlin's not a fan favorite, but he's good because when he won Martinsville, he hadn't won in a while. I think it's good for him to win. Did you see him come out and win the next week at Darlington and go on a winning streak? No, because he's not my favorite driver per se. But I do think it is good for the sport to have him involved, and obviously in winning races.
Yeah, so you mentioned that he has a good shot of being a back-to-back-to-back winner at Bristol. What about Bristol seems to work in the advantage of the Toyotas? Because recently we have seen it's either JGR or Hendrick Motorsports and then a sprinkle of Ford, but it seems to be those are the top 2 teams. What is the advantage for those two at Bristol?
Manufacturer, I think that one is really like Hendrick set for that, and you've for example, Kyle Larson, he wasn't good at it. To it. I think it's a big thing that we are driving is ability to adapt.
Seems to be having connectivity issues. I'll see if he'll join one more time. Let me see if I can get this figured out, though. I'm sorry about that. But I do think that Bristol is a top track for JGR, and I do believe that it could easily be a win for another JGR driver. All right, he seems to be back. Let's see if we can add Jay Husmann one more time here.
I'm here. I don't know why it's not staying.
I'm not sure. Maybe you could turn your camera off. We could try that way if you'd like.
With audio?
Yeah, that'd be fine.
All right.
Well, yeah, I've not had this issue before either. I'm not sure. But what were you saying about Bristol being a track for being a better track, it seems, for the JGRs and Hendricks of the world compared to the Fords? Well, it looks like we've lost him now. I'll see if he can come back on one more time. But something I was going to ask him about was the fact that Bristol seems to be a track that is easily a favorite for a Toyota driver or for a Chevrolet driver. And when you look at what happened during the spring race of last year, which was one of the oddest races I had seen, I had the privilege of seeing that in person. And you looked at the tops of the banks of the tracks, and it was entirely covered in marbles. And when you saw a car get up there, they were loose. And then as soon as you saw a car, and it could have been a 10-lap tire difference, a driver would put on new tires, and they would just fly by everybody. And a lot of fans said that was a race that they thoroughly enjoyed. A lot of people were very happy about it. For one, while I was there, it was enjoyable. I believe over the last 100 laps, last 120 laps, it stayed green, and Denny Hamlin won there. And that's someone else I think will do well again. Jay, you're back. I'll add you one more time. Let's see if we can get this to work.
All right, I did try something there and reconnecting to my Wi-Fi network differently. So hopefully that doesn't happen again. I apologize for it.
It's all good.
But talking about Bristol, and I think another one, as I was comparing it to Hendrick Motorsports at Martinsville, I do think that it's a team setup to start with. And Denny Hamlin, and I was giving credit to Denny Hamlin of the talent he has, of the ability to adapt. Once the next gen car came along, I think he struggled a little bit. Obviously, he just came off that winless streak, which was only 30 some races, but he is a driver that figures out how to adapt. And I was saying, like Kyle Busch, Chase Elliott, Jimmy Johnson, Kevin Harvick, some of these drivers have admitted they just weren't adjusting to it. And I think Denny Hamlin has. And that's scary, honestly, of that. Because I certainly see Denny Hamlin possibly getting that third win in a row and back-to-back at Bristol itself.
Yeah, do you think that it's now becoming, because whenever the next gen car came out, it was a major deal that NASCAR said we're on a level playing field. The only thing you can really touch is the setup for the cars. The rest of it's all even. But obviously, we see you've got your big three of JGR, Hendrick Motorsports, Penske. They're always running up front, or at least winning the most races. Do you think that we're now getting to a point in the lifespan of the Gen 7 that just certain teams are just going to be better than others, and that's just how it's going to be?
Yeah, and if you didn't see that coming, you've never been a race fan or followed racing. The top teams are the top teams for a reason. It may shift in cycles. It may take teams a little bit longer to do so. It certainly did level the playing field, and I think we still see the effects of that. A team like RFK can be competitive, maybe not dominant, but competitive. But your JGRs, your Hendrick Motorsports are going to figure it out. I mean, they just have the resources to put into it. You know, when we look at any time a manufacturer came out with a new car, HMS struggled with the one Camaro, ZL1 Camaro when it came out, but they wrapped their arms around it and came back and were dominant again. So, yeah, this is, like I said, you had to have seen it coming. Penske obviously did figure it out quickest. Now the question is, can they hold on to it as JGR and HMS are getting their hands around it?
Yeah, so with Bristol coming up on Sunday, and like I mentioned, I've been talking about the teams that are dominant there. Just overall for the track itself, I was talking about the last spring race and then if you look at the fall race, was the major difference was the tire wear. How did you feel about the last spring race with the major tire wear issues? And do you think that that should translate over to short track racing, and more specifically Bristol, for even this race or moving forward?
I don't know if it does so much at Bristol. That's kind of where they discovered it the first time, when they went with the softer tire, and then the temperature or something, and I don't know if they ever did figure out, really took it to another level. We had a bit of a tire issue, if you will. So I think NASCAR and Goodyear have worked really hard to work on that as far as a softer short track tire. I know they're not calling it that. That's my word for it. But it was to help, as you mentioned, with the short track package, the aero problem they were having on short tracks. So I think they're in a good place now. I don't think we're going to see it become the main focus of the race, whereas for a couple of years it was. And there again, Denny Hamlin, if that comes to be, putting a tire issue and having to have tire control and management in the driver's hands, you're going to have a tough time beating Denny Hamlin, because he's one of the best at it. So look out for that if it does. I haven't heard for sure, and I don't know if you know, I thought they were talking about putting PJ1 down on the track at Bristol. I thought we were done using that at all tracks, but I've heard throughout the week that that is going to happen, even with this softer tire.
Yeah, I was reading a recap from NASCAR.com today that they had brought up the PJ1 and the Holler Talk podcast that they do now. And I guess it slipped my mind, but I think that they're trying to avoid it because it was something they used in the past. So I don't believe they're using it this weekend. I may be wrong on that, but I feel confident that they're not using it this weekend, which I would be okay with them not using it, because we saw when they tried to use it in the fall, it kind of becomes a little bit of a train at that point, where it's just a lot of, not to say chaos, because it's not. It's the opposite of that. It's just nothing's really going on, and that creates a boredom for fans.
That was one of those. I understand the intent, and there were certain tracks it did work well at. I don't think Bristol was one of them. If it did, it was for a short time period when it got, as they said, heated up. But drivers said that it would go away in a hurry. And then if you hit it, it became like almost like an ice patch or something that then you had to try and race around it, which from one aspect is entertaining. Just like if there's I'm a dirt track guy. So if there's a rut in the track, you got to try and drive around it and work around it. It makes it different, but to me isn't then good racing when it comes to that, because you're racing the track more than you are your competition or your own car.
So the final question I have for you today, because of Bristol, back, believe before 2024, the spring race was a dirt race for about for 3 years. And it obviously was taken away. Drivers didn't really like it. It became, I mean, even to watch it on television, it was hard to watch it just because of how dirt works on when you put it over concrete. That's gonna happen. But do you think Bristol is the kind of track with just how, it's basically a major coliseum? We've seen football games played there. It'll be a baseball game this year. Do you think that Bristol is the type of track where NASCAR could go back and try something new again there, where maybe they could try dirt again?
Well, let me ask you this first off. Have you been to Bristol?
Yes, I went last spring.
Okay. Tell me if I'm lying. TV doesn't do it justice, and you can't even describe that experience walking in there and just looking down to wherever your seat is. So, yeah, I mean, I think Bristol has all kinds of capabilities. I know there's been talk about putting a dome on it. I don't know if that's a good idea, but they're looking at, just like NASCAR, what can we do outside the box of our norm? I went up to, when they did the dirt on Bristol, not for the cup race. I went up for the super late model race there one of the weekends, because they had it on the dirt on the track and maximized that for several weeks. I believe it was the World of Outlaw Supers that were there. I had some friends, local drivers in the Tennessee, Mississippi area that were there in the street stocks and the modifieds. So I thought it was a great thing. Did it work? That's NASCAR's decision. I thought year one, and again, I say this as a dirt guy, and I might lose some of my friends, but year one, it was an experiment. It was not the best. I thought NASCAR did a great job of improving and evolving each and every year. At the end of 3 years, and we've seen NASCAR with several things, that's kind of their target window of let's do something for 3 years and move on to something else. I would like to have seen them keep doing it and evolve it, but I also wasn't heartbroken that they took it away. There's a lot of things, and drivers will tell you this, these cars were not designed to run on dirt. When you look at a dirt car, the way the car is designed is different. I thought NASCAR did a good job of working with that and making it the best they could. I found it pretty good, especially by year 3. Year 2 and 3 were much better. Year 1 was tough. There's no doubt about it. And I think, again, NASCAR is a top organization as a whole, so they could have kept working on it, but they chose to move on. And I respect that. I appreciate the fact that they tried. My biggest thing would be to take it to a dirt track, and there is only a couple that really are viable: Eldora Speedway and Knoxville Raceway. Now, that's where some of the veteran drivers got in and said this car really wouldn't work on even a regular dirt track like that. And I can't deny that. But if I were to ask for anything now at this point, it would be for them to go to an actual dirt track, either Eldora or Knoxville.
Yeah, I don't see why they couldn't. I mean, we saw them go back to. I mean, they went to Bowman Gray for the exhibition race, and then they're gonna be at North Wilkesboro, a track that small community and all that stuff. But yeah, I think overall it would be a good experience to have them on dirt again. But I want to thank you for joining us. I appreciated you joining us today. It was very, very fun. Very, very, very nice conversation. And you're always welcome back again if you'd like to ever come on.
All right, I would appreciate it, and I enjoyed it. And actually, I was thinking the same way of, on Mondays, Monday nights, we do a section called Hot Topics. Some of the topics throughout a week or whatever's going on in the sport. I'm going to talk to Sharon Burton. She's the one that runs Fan4Racing about maybe seeing if we can get you on there. If you're available on Monday nights at 9 Eastern.
Okay, yeah.
No, wrong. 10 Eastern, 9 Central. Sorry, I'm in Central.
It's all good. Yeah. Yeah, I'd be interested in that. I appreciate it.
All right. I'll get you hooked up with Sharon, and hopefully we can talk again, whether it be on here or on Hot Topics. Appreciate the time.
Thank you. Thank you again. So that was Jay Husmann, sorry about that, of the podcast that he's just talking about, Fan4Racing, which is on YouTube. Like he mentioned, he brought it up 10 o'clock Eastern on Monday nights. But I do believe Bristol is one of a kind. Going there for the first time, I went, like I mentioned, back in the spring. It was a very odd race to go to for the first time, but I enjoyed it. It, like I said, it's odd because you can host other events there and it would work just because of the size of the track and the size of the venue, and then just where it's placed. It's a great location in East Tennessee, Southwest Virginia, and it works out well for a place where a lot of race fans are. But I want to now get into what I think will happen at the race. And I do not believe tire is going to be an issue here. I think NASCAR is just going to let the race play its course, and I am perfectly fine with that, at least for this race, because we saw what happened whenever you bring in the softer compound and it just creates chaos, and then you bring in the type of grips, type of sticks for the track, and it just doesn't work out that well. But at the beginning of the season, I said that Denny Hamlin would win the championship in the playoffs, but I also said Kyle Larson would win the regular season title. Right now, Kyle Larson's kind of doing pretty poorly at that, but I will move on from that. But I truthfully think that Denny Hamlin, you can look back at this point in the season and you can say, yep, that's where Denny Hamlin proved that he could finally get it done. And I do think that Denny Hamlin wins this weekend at Bristol. And if you want to go along with me on that, like I mentioned last week, I said William Byron would dominate and win. He didn't win, finished second to Denny Hamlin, but it happens. It's okay. But right now on DraftKings, Denny Hamlin is the favorite at plus 400. But then right after that is Kyle Larson at plus 450. Kyle Larson has the best average finish here, while Denny Hamlin is right behind. But Hamlin has 2 wins in the next-gen era at this track on concrete surface. And this is just something that I believe Denny Hamlin will manage to get done again, because why wouldn't he at this point? You already went back-to-back. You have a teammate that just won 3 in a row at the beginning of the season. So why can he not here just go ahead and say, yep, I'm going to go ahead and claim my 3rd win? Because I do not think anyone else is going to bring anything that may compete. The only team I can think of would be Hendrick Motorsports. But even they, if you look at their drivers, William Byron struggled there last season, and during the spring race, during the fall race, Hendrick did pretty well there. But I think someone that people are forgetting about is Alex Bowman. Alex Bowman enters the weekend with a 14.5 average finish at the track, and he also has 1 top 5 and 2 top 10s. Alex Bowman is also right now, all 4 Hendrick drivers are in the top 10 in the regular season points right now, and there's a reason for that. And you can call the leader of this, I would say William Byron. I would say William Byron and Chase Elliott, at least this season it's William Byron, is the consistency of just starting up front, staying up front, and finishing up front. Chase Elliott has the best average finish in the next-gen car, but in the year 2025, it is William Byron who is proving to his teammates, which, by the way, can we just talk about how great of a field they have, that even people – you look at Alex Bowman, if you put him on most any other team, he would be a 1 or 2 driver. And people talk about Corey Day is going to take a seat. It's going to be Rajah Caruth taking his seat. But anyways, I think that Alex Bowman is a really good pick here for a top 5 finish. And let me explain why. He's sitting at plus 450 on DraftKings right now. And a plus 450 odds. It's pretty far for a top 5, at least in this landscape. But overall, he's someone that can prove that he can do it. I mean, if you look at the fall race last season, the spring race last season, he finished 4th there. And then if you go back and just stay with those numbers here, as I mentioned, he still has 2 top 10 finishes, and he still has that top 5 finish. And I believe Alex Bowman will do well there. But then my pick of the weekend, someone who I think will do very well, I got to bring up my notes because I felt so confident in this. I wrote this down 2 days ago, was Chris Buescher. The lines came out, and for a top 10 for him is plus 100. He is the best average finish among Ford drivers, and has only finished outside the top 10 at Bristol once, which was last year. And then this is all on the concrete surface as well. So do not feel as if I'm talking about the dirt race here, even though I'm pretty sure he did pretty decent in that too. But Bristol is a track that I grew up around. I lived in Knoxville, Tennessee for a while, for most of my life. And Bristol is the home track. It took me until I was 20 to go finally see a race there, though. But I think overall, Bristol will deliver a great race this weekend. I don't know why fans find it so boring, because it is a half-mile track that has banking, and it's just a really fun track because you have to see drivers go through traffic, go around each other, and then you've also got the whole pit road situation to where it's 2 different pit rows, and that's awesome to me. So I want to thank you guys for joining this weekend. I'm sorry about the technical difficulties earlier, but I do believe we got through it just fine. But once again, thank you guys for joining, and I will be back here once again next week on Wednesday. Thank you so much.